Good day to you, mates. This is Oftheworld, ready to present yet another captivating episode in our weekly series, Nations of the World, unveiling the fascinating histories of various nations worldwide. Today, we whisk you away to the land down under, immersing you in the beguiling history of Australia. Rich in natural allure and cultural variety, Australia is a distinctive jewel adorning our planet. Despite being the smallest continent, it prides itself as the sixth largest country and the only one ruling an entire continent. Now, let's gently drift through the awe-inspiring landmarks, each portraying Australia's geographical magnificence. Our journey commences underwater, smoothly transitioning to the enchanting Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system globally, a natural canvas splashed with countless colors. From the vibrant marine life, we seamlessly glide inland to the heart of the Australian Outback. Here, the iconic red monolith, Uluru, majestically stands, casting long shadows across the landscape. Our journey doesn't stop there. With a captivating segue, we move to marvel at Australia's architectural prowess at the Sydney Opera House. This stunning structure proudly punctuates the harbour city's skyline. Then, with a calming transition, we meander across the extensive, rugged terrains of the Outback, a place encapsulating Australia's spirit in its purest, untouched magnificence. This is Australia, a land of staggering contrasts and breathtaking beauty, and we invite you aboard as we embark on a chronological journey to unravel its vibrant and diverse history. Remember, if our content resonates with you and you wish to voyage with us through time and space every week, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We're keen to hear which nation you'd like us to explore next week. So don't hesitate to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And with that, let the journey begin. But before we dive into history, let's talk about something that Australia is famous for: its dangerous wildlife. The land down under is home to some of the world's most hazardous creatures, a fact that often garners much curiosity and fascination. The saltwater crocodile, the largest living reptile, lurks in the murky waters of northern Australia. Its stealth and power have earned it the title of the most dangerous crocodile globally. Then there's the Sydney funnel web spider, with venom potent enough to kill a human within minutes. Not to forget the box jellyfish, whose translucent body and drifting tentacles hide a deadly secret, a sting that can cause cardiac arrest. But hold on. Before these facts make you reconsider your virtual or real visit to Australia, let's put things into perspective. Despite their fearsome reputation, these creatures play a crucial role in Australia's rich and delicate ecosystems. For instance, crocodiles help maintain the balance of marine ecosystems. Spiders control the insect population, and jellyfish are a vital part of the ocean's food chain. Furthermore, encounters with these animals are quite rare. Australians have learned to coexist with these creatures, and there are numerous precautions and safety measures in place to ensure minimal human-wildlife conflict. So, while Australia's wildlife might seem scary, remember that they're an essential part of this incredible continent's biodiversity. They add to the distinct character of Australia, making it all the more fascinating. Now, with a newfound appreciation for Australia's dangerous yet crucial wildlife, let's dive back into history. Our journey begins with the Aboriginal Era, dating back to over 60,000 years ago. Our tale unfurls in the distant past, woven into the fabric of time itself. It's a story about the original custodians of the land we now call Australia, the Aboriginal people. Their rich culture, spirituality, and unique connection with the land have left an indelible mark on Australia's history, shaping its identity even today. Imagine, if you will, a time when the land was untouched by modern civilization. The Aboriginal people lived in harmony with nature, their lives intricately interwoven with the rhythms of the earth. Their societies were complex and diverse, each with its own languages, customs, and laws. Their profound spirituality was deeply rooted in the land, in the rocks, the rivers, the animals, and the sky. They believed in the dream time, a sacred era when ancestral spiritual beings created the world. Stories of the dream time were passed down through generations, often through intricate song cycles, dances, and rock art, offering a window into a rich tapestry of spiritual beliefs. The Aboriginal people's connection with the land was not just spiritual but also pragmatic. They were skilled hunters and gatherers, adept at navigating the diverse landscapes of Australia, from the arid deserts to the lush rainforests. They developed sophisticated techniques for managing the land, such as fire stick farming, where controlled fires were used to stimulate the growth of plants and control pests. In a world far removed from ours, they found a way to live sustainably, respecting the delicate balance of nature. They understood that the land was not just a resource, but a living entity, deserving of respect and care. However, just like any grand narrative, there are chapters that transform the path of the tale. For the Aboriginal people, the peaceful rhythm of their era was abruptly interrupted with the British invasion, but we'll delve into that in the next scene. For now, let's take a moment for quiet contemplation on the Aboriginal era, a period when humanity and nature thrived as one, an epoch that still holds valuable lessons for us today. Remember, history is not only a reflection of our past, but also a compass leading us to comprehend our present and sculpt our future. Fast forward to the 17th century, when Australia first entered European maps. The European discovery of this vast southern land was not a singular event, but a series of encounters and explorations that spanned over a century. Let's start with the Dutch. In 1606, a Dutch explorer by the name of Willem Janszoon, aboard the Duifken, made the first recorded European landing on the Australian continent. Janszoon and his crew mapped around 300 kilometers of the Cape York Peninsula in Queensland. However, they believed they were on the southern part of New Guinea and not on a new continent. Throughout the 17th century, the Dutch, under auspices of the Dutch East India Company, continued to explore Australia's western and northern coasts. They named this new land New Holland, but made no attempt at settlement, finding the land inhospitable. Then enter the British. In 1770, a British navigator named James Cook sailed along and mapped the east coast of Australia. Stepping ashore at a place he named Botany Bay, Cook claimed the eastern portion of the Australian continent for Britain, under the name of New South Wales. Unlike the Dutch, Cook saw the potential for this new land. Cook's voyage marked a turning point in Australia's history. His reports of fertile soil, abundant wildlife, and amicable Indigenous people painted a promising picture of this new land, igniting British interest. Within 2 decades, the British established a penal colony, a settlement used to exile prisoners and separate them from the general population by placing them in a remote location, often an island or distant colonial territory. This marked the beginning of waves of immigration from Europe. The discovery of Australia by Europeans was indeed a double-edged sword. While it opened up a new world of opportunities for the explorers and the subsequent settlers, it also marked the beginning of a dark period for the indigenous people whose way of life was profoundly disrupted by European colonization. The discovery of Australia by Europeans set the stage for a new chapter in its history. The late 18th century marked the beginning of the Colonial Period in Australia. A time of exploration, settlement, and profound transformation, the Colonial Period is a pivotal chapter in Australia's rich history. In 1788, a fleet of 11 ships carrying roughly 1,000 souls, half of whom were convicts, arrived in what is now known as Sydney. The British, seeking to alleviate the overcrowded prisons back home, decided to establish a penal colony in the remote and uncharted territory of New South Wales. This marked the birth of the first European settlement in Australia, an event that would forever alter the course of the continent's history. The penal colony quickly grew, with more convicts shipped from Britain and free settlers seeking new opportunities. The colony expanded, and explorers ventured further into the vast unknown. What was once a distant penal outpost gradually transformed into a thriving colonial society. By the mid-19th century, additional colonies were established in other parts of Australia: Tasmania, Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, and Queensland all emerged from the shadows of exploration. Each colony, with its unique challenges and opportunities, added a new dimension to the Australian colonial period. But let's not forget, this period of expansion and growth was not without its dark side. The impact of colonization on the indigenous population was, to put it mildly, catastrophic. Diseases brought by the Europeans decimated the Aboriginal population, and the seizure of their lands led to violent conflicts known as the Frontier Wars. The indigenous cultures, which had thrived for tens of thousands of years, were irrevocably disrupted. The British introduced Western law, education, and religion, significantly altering the cultural landscape of Australia. The indigenous population was marginalised, their traditional ways of life disrupted, and their languages and practices often suppressed. This period also saw the tragic implementation of policies that led to the stolen generations, a dark chapter where Aboriginal children were forcibly removed from their families. Yet, despite the adversities, the Aboriginal people and the Torres Strait Islanders persevered. They resisted and survived, their cultures remaining vibrant and resilient amidst the drastic changes. As the colonial period progressed, the seeds of self-governance began to sprout. By the mid-19th century, the Australian colonies managed to gain responsible government, marking the first steps towards nationhood. The colonial period set the stage for the birth of a new nation, laying the foundations for the Australia we know today. The colonial period had a profound impact on Australia, shaping its future in many ways. It was a time of exploration, expansion, and transformation. It was a period of growth, but also of conflict and dispossession. As we delve deeper into Australia's history, we will continue to grapple with the complex legacy of the colonial period, understanding its impacts and recognizing its enduring influence on the nation's identity. The 19th century brought about significant changes in Australia, with the Gold Rush and the path to nationhood. As the mid-19th century rolled in, whispers of gold discoveries started to circulate. In 1851, it was no longer a whisper, but a shout heard around the world. Gold had been discovered in New South Wales and Victoria. This marked the beginning of the Australian Gold Rush, a period of frenetic gold mining activity and population growth. From the far reaches of the globe, fortune seekers poured into Australia, lured by the promise of golden riches. The population of Australia nearly tripled during this time. The Gold Rush transformed Australia from a penal colony to a dynamic and diverse society. Gold mining revolutionized the Australian economy. Gold exports financed development in other sectors of the economy and contributed to the wealth of the Australian colonies. The goldfields themselves were a melting pot of cultures, which led to a multicultural society that we see in Australia today. But the Gold Rush was not just about gold, it was a catalyst for social and political change. The Eureka Rebellion of 1854, though a violent and bloody affair, was a significant event in the march towards democracy. The miners' resistance against the colonial authorities led to major political reforms, including the extension of the right to vote to all adult males. As the gold rush waned, the colonies in Australia began to consider the benefits of uniting into a single nation. The idea of federation was not new, but it gained momentum in the late 19th century. The colonies faced common issues such as immigration, defense, and trade that could be better addressed by a unified government. The path to federation was not smooth. There were disagreements, debates, and delays. But on the first day of the 20th century, the dream of a united Australia became a reality. The Commonwealth of Australia was born. The 6 colonies became states under a federal system of government. The creation of the Commonwealth of Australia was a milestone in the country's history. It marked the end of colonial rule and the beginning of Australia's journey as a nation. The Constitution provided for a parliamentary democracy, guaranteeing political rights and freedoms for its citizens. The Federation also laid the foundation for Australia's foreign policy. It allowed Australia to establish its presence on the world stage. Australia began to develop relationships with other countries separate from its ties with Britain. With nationhood, Australia was on its way to establishing its identity on the world stage. The Gold Rush and the path to nationhood were pivotal in shaping Australia's history. From a distant penal colony, Australia transformed into a prosperous and democratic nation, ready to make its mark in the world. The 20th century was a period of global conflict and change, and Australia was no exception. As the echoes of the new century began to ring out, Australia found itself thrust onto the world stage. The First World War, or the Great War as it was known back then, saw Australia play a significant role. Over 400,000 Australians served in the conflict, a substantial number for a population of fewer than 5 million people. The impact of this war on Australia was profound. The loss of over 60,000 lives left a deep scar on the nation. The survivors, many of whom returned home physically or psychologically damaged, were hailed as the Anzac heroes, a term that would become a part of Australia's national identity. The Second World War further tested Australia's mettle. With the threat of Japanese invasion looming, Australia found itself in the front line of the Pacific War. Over 1 million Australians served in this conflict, and the country's strategic importance was heightened as it became a base for Allied operations in the Pacific. This war too left its mark on Australia. Over 27,000 Australians lost their lives, and the threat of invasion led to a sense of vulnerability that would influence Australia's foreign and defence policies in the years to come. But where there is destruction, there is also rebirth. The end of the Second World War saw a wave of immigration that would dramatically transform Australia's demographic landscape. Fleeing the devastation of war-torn Europe, hundreds of thousands of immigrants arrived on Australia's shores, seeking a new life in the land down under. This post-war immigration boom, coupled with a government-sponsored populate or perish policy, led to a rapid increase in Australia's population. The country's ethnic diversity was enriched as it welcomed people from all corners of the globe. Australia was no longer an isolated nation at the edge of the world. It was a multicultural society, part of a rapidly globalizing world. The World Wars and the post-war period brought about significant changes in Australian society. The scars of war were deep, but they also helped to shape the nation's identity. The influx of immigrants brought a wealth of cultural diversity, transforming Australia into the vibrant, multicultural nation we see today. The World Wars and the post-war period brought about significant changes in Australian society. In the latter half of the 20th century, Australia emerged as a modern, prosperous nation. A significant milestone in the country's recent history was the Sydney Olympics in the year 2000. This monumental event showcased Australia's ability to host a world-class sporting event, while also shining a spotlight on its friendly citizens, stunning landscapes, and vibrant culture. Australia, however, also grappled with the darker aspects of its history. In 2008, the government issued a historic apology to the stolen generations, acknowledging the pain and suffering inflicted on Indigenous Australians through past policies of forced child removal and assimilation. This apology represented a significant step towards healing and reconciliation, but the journey is far from over. Today, Australia continues to wrestle with the ongoing challenges of reconciliation and multiculturalism. The nation is a melting pot of cultures, with people from all corners of the globe calling Australia home. This cultural diversity is both a strength and a challenge as Australia strives to foster a society where everyone feels included and valued regardless of their cultural background. The country's rich Indigenous heritage, which stretches back over 65,000 years, is an integral part of its national identity. Efforts are underway to recognize and respect this heritage while also addressing the socio-economic disparities that exist between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. Australia's economy, once heavily reliant on agriculture and mining, has diversified. Today, sectors such as finance, education and tourism play a significant role in the country's economic prosperity. Australia's natural beauty, from its stunning beaches to its awe-inspiring Outback, continues to attract tourists from around the world. In the realm of politics, Australia has seen a number of significant changes, including the country's first female Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, who took office in 2010. The political landscape continues to evolve, reflecting the changing values and aspirations of the Australian people. Today, Australia stands as a vibrant, diverse nation with a rich history and a promising future. The land down under, as it's affectionately known, continues to make strides on the global stage while never forgetting the lessons of its past. In the Australia of today, let's take a moment to understand the current government. Australia is a democratic nation with a federal system of government where power is divided between the federal government and the states and territories. The Governor-General represents the Queen, Australia's head of state, while the Prime Minister is the head of government. Parliament, consisting of the Senate and the House of Representatives, is where laws are made and debated. The two major political parties, the Australian Labor Party and the Liberal Party, often in coalition with the Nationals, have dominated Australian politics for much of the country's modern history. These parties, with their differing ideologies, shape policy-making and the nation's political discourse. Today, the Australian government faces numerous challenges and opportunities. Issues such as climate change, immigration, Indigenous rights, and the nation's role in global affairs are hotly debated topics. Balancing economic growth with environmental sustainability, fostering social inclusion in a diverse society, and maintaining Australia's international competitiveness are just some of the complex tasks that lie ahead. But with its robust democratic institutions and a history of resilience and adaptation, Australia is well equipped to navigate these challenges. Understanding the government is key to understanding the Australia of today. It is through the lens of politics that we see the values, aspirations, and challenges of the Australian people reflected, shaping the nation's present and future trajectory. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of Australian history. We've traversed time, from the rich Aboriginal era, marked by its deep spiritual connection to the land, to the European discovery and subsequent colonial period that forever altered the continent's trajectory. We've witnessed the Gold Rush, a time of sudden wealth and rapid expansion that propelled Australia onto the world stage, and later, the nation's indomitable spirit during the World Wars and beyond. Finally, we've explored the vibrant, multicultural society that is modern Australia, a testament to its rich history and diverse influences. Australia's story is one of resilience, transformation, and unity. It's a tale that reflects the unique aspects of Australian history and culture, from its Indigenous roots to its contemporary global standing. If you enjoyed this journey through time, do subscribe to our channel for more fascinating insights into the histories of the world. Until next time, cheerio.